The following is a presentation of TFNN.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. Namaste. Tom and I are honored to invite this guest with us today right here in the studio, Denise O'Dunn, who's here to talk about Ayurveda with us, all about Ayurveda. And Denise is with Balance and Bliss Ayurveda Center in Tampa. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you very much, Allie.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It's the perfect time, too, because everyone's getting sick.
That's right.
I'm seeing it in our practice, yes.
Are you? Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I can't wait to dive into this conversation. But before we get to that, in Mindful Living tradition, we've got to take a toast to the health of our listeners. So today's health elixir was provided by Denise O'Dunn. And Denise, tell us a little bit about what we're going to toast with here.
Well, this is a doshically prepared tea, and if you don't know the term dosha yet, you will hopefully before this program is finished. But it means that it's balancing for everyone, but it has a focus on herbs that are very aromatic, warming, spicy, and it's meant to improve or boost the immune system.
Cool.
So that was the choice today.
Perfect. It's needed at this time of year. So we'll say to the health of our listeners, and Happy New Year, 2014. Yeah.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Smells great.
Oh, it smells so good. And we'll see if I feel, let's see how I feel after the first sip. Calm and balanced. Thank you so
It is really
much.
good.
Thank you.
It is really good.
So is this tea available on your website, just to know?
It is. It's
Okay.
called our aromatic spice blend.
Okay, beautiful. So for information on Denise and the Balance and Bliss Ayurveda Center, please visit their website, balanceandbliss.com. So let's get right into this conversation because there's a lot to talk about, and I know a lot of our listeners are really interested in this topic. So in a nutshell, what is Ayurveda?
Ayurveda is a practice. It was originally the original medicine of India from ancient times. And in our country, we practice it as a lifestyle. It's a way that we make choices based on our nature, which Ayurveda has a system of defining clearly our nature. And then we make decisions, we make choices in a day to balance that information that we know about ourselves. So it's a practice. It's a practice of health and longevity originally, and still practiced as a medicine in India today.
Okay, a holistic preventative medicine system from India.
Yes.
And as you say, thousands of years old. It's one of the oldest in existence.
Yes.
So you founded Balance and Bliss, the center. When did you create the center?
Well, I have been teaching yoga now for about 35 years. It's starting to be a little kind of 40. That would put a certain age on me, wouldn't it? But yes, for about
It's
35
okay. It means
years.
Wisdom and yoga, we honor that, you know? Experience is key.
And where I found yoga actually in my teens, so I've been practicing much longer than that. All along the way, you see Ayurveda. It's there. It's in the Vedic literature. But my practice, Balance and Bliss, to me it was a combination of the real essence of yoga, which is to find that place of bliss, that place of full liberation.
Yes.
And then,
cleansing the body, right?
Yes, definitely that physical benefit. But then also the balance that comes from the Ayurvedic wisdom of knowing our true nature and knowing how to make decisions accordingly. So it was a business decision, but at the same time I felt it had a good meaning for our practice.
And have you found that with the proliferation and growth of yoga, that interest in Ayurveda is growing as well?
Most definitely.
How are people finding your center? Through your yoga classes, or are they just Googling Ayurveda online and looking for a practitioner?
Right. This day and age, it's certainly a combination of both and word of mouth. But Ayurveda is becoming more known, certainly behind the time and recognitions for yoga. Yoga had its popularities, that kept coming around, cycling in the 50s and the 70s again, and then never really lost its spotlight. But Ayurveda is following that same track. It's just a little behind that. More and more, though, I'm finding people that are aware of Ayurveda, though they might not have a clear understanding of it. They've heard of it at least.
Sure.
Yes.
And so what are they coming to you for primarily? Are you seeing in general some similar types of ailments people are looking for help with, or just overall health?
The majority of my clients come with what I call quality of life issues. They may not have a clear defined disorder or disease, but rather they are having trouble sleeping, they're having difficulty with digestion, they feel stressed or over thinking things, or maybe even having scattered thoughts. So it's more quality of life issues that I see primarily. And I feel like that's where Ayurveda works the very best, catching things at that level.
True, because then the Ayurvedic practitioner dives into, well, what's causing those symptoms?
Yes.
And you help kind of get to the heart of the issue. So how do you diagnose people? This is always so interesting to hear.
Oh, totally.
You know, how, well, first of all, Ayurveda differs from, say, Western medicine. How?
Well, what we like to clearly define at this stage of Ayurveda in our country is that we're not a medicine, so we're not treating and diagnosing per se.
Okay.
Rather, we have evaluation methods, assessment methods, tools that have been used since the beginning of this practice, but we are then able to come up with recommendations of how to find more balance for that individual. And the tools that we use are pulse. We take pulse to define some of the information. We look at the individual. We can take visual information about their eyes and their skin and their hair, their features, even their structure. And then we also have inquiry. A good part of our evaluation method is through inquiry. We talk to the person. We get to know them. We want to know their history and where they are currently and how their minds work. And then all of that together gives us a clear definition of that individual doshically.
Okay, doshically. I
Yes.
find that so interesting that you can take someone's pulse and know so much about them. So we have to get into the doshas. We were talking about this, folks, before we started the show with Denise, and I can't wait to find out what Tom's dosha is. I have some theories behind what we'll find out, but let's talk about the doshas.
Okay. So there are 3 doshas according to the principles of Ayurveda, and they are Vata, V-A-T-A, Pitta, P-I-T-T-A, and then Kapha, which is K-A-P-H-A, but we say in the Sanskrit language there's really not an F sound, so we say it's Kapha. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha are made up of 5 elements that we recognize in Ayurveda, and they are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And each dosha is comprised of 2 of those elements. So Vata is made up of ether and air, and it means that it has qualities that are like that. And even if dosha is a new word for you, or these elements are something you're not really familiar with, once you understand the qualities, you understand everything you need to know about Ayurveda. So Vata, being the air and ether dosha, is very light, it's cool, it's dry, it's movable, it's like the air, it's changeable. So everything, if you think about the season, today's weather, this is
Yes.
a Vata day.
Yeah.
Yes.
The air is cool and dry and
Blowing.
windy.
Yes, it's a gale force out there in Florida. It's supposed to be 20 tonight, so we're all huddled together in here.
And folks, you can see that we're spoiled. It's 0 where you are, so
Right.
I understand.
Definitely. But another thing that's very Vata about today is how quickly our weather changed. And things
Yes.
that change have qualities of Vata.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And that's right. Vata's
Right.
cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Okay.
And then the Pitta dosha is fire and water. So now we're heating things up, and we have qualities that are not only hot, but they're wet or they're oily because of the water element. We have qualities that are movable, but very, very regular. It's kind of like a candle flame in a room. If you didn't have air circulating, that candle would move in a very regular pattern.
Yes.
The qualities are also very sharp and piercing. So steam is a good example of Pitta, hot,
Right.
wet, and sharp.
Right.
The qualities of, and we could say that Pitta is represented in our weather here in Florida most commonly, hot and humid.
Right.
Yeah.
That's Pitta.
Penetrating.
Yeah.
Penetrating,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Right.
yes.
Right.
The third dosha then of Kapha is made of water and earth, and now we're cooling down a bit. We're becoming very solid and dense. Damp is the nature of Kapha, and we say it either moves very slowly, like mud, perhaps on an incline, or it's more stable if it has more earth element in like a round, smooth stone. And that would be, weather-wise, since we've used that reference, it would be any day that is cold, cloudy, but thicker, damp,
Okay.
like we might have here.
Right.
So when you now look at the doshas, I mean, and I know it's a much more complex topic than I'll be able to put into words here. Forgive me, but you start to look at applying the dosha to a person, right, or what their major dosha is?
Yes.
First of all, maybe explain
I
what
will.
we're looking for there, and then how that might manifest in our behavior.
Yes. So every person, each person is a combination of all three doshas. We have all three in our makeup. We just have a dominant, secondary, and third. And more common is that a person is dual dosha, meaning that they have two that are rather strong. They stand out the most. Your first and the second might be equal to the first in amount, as we can equate that amount, or it might be quite a difference, but it'll be enough that it'll be considered a second dosha that contributes to you in noticeable ways. And then that third dosha would come in somewhere behind. So given that we have all three doshas in our makeup, what we're really looking for is determine the hierarchy. Who is the dominant,
Yes.
who is the second, and where does that third come in? And we look at the individual, like I said, visual observations. We're looking at skin tone and facial features, height of the person, their structure. Everything that we can see visually, which is how I'll be able to work with you today, it gives us information, and we've got a good basis of understanding. Go ahead.
Is there cycles? Is there in the course of the year that
Good
one
question.
dosha would take over another dosha?
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, right.
And not only within the course of a year, but within the course of a lifetime.
Yes, right.
So we have dosha
right,
that's been
right.
determined that when we're born and up to puberty or through our adolescence,
Yes.
we're more affected by and influenced by kapha. Babies are small and dense in their size and
Okay.
sweet and round and soft and juicy.
Right.
That's the nature
Right.
of kapha.
Right.
And then as we reach puberty and we start to become more independent and we're young and starting to greet the world and looking around us and deciding what we want, all of that is the pitta influence starting to come in. And as we become young adults, we're planning our lives and setting things up, all of that, very purposeful planning. That's pitta. But our pitta years are all the way from puberty, that's just one way to denote, up to maybe our 40s, 50s. And for women, we can absolutely determine it. It's postmenopausal. And then we go into our vata years. So even though we are born with a unique combination of dosha that's well suited for us, we will be influenced by where we are in our life cycle. Also, within the course of a day, we even have times of day that we've designated. These are vata times of day,
Yes.
transfers into pitta time, into kapha time, and
Right.
such. So we are always influenced by the doshas. Just our unique combination is going to determine how we respond, different from one person to the next.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, is it affected ever by events of life?
Yes, everything affects dosha. We have two types of dosha that we recognize in that there's prakriti, which is your original nature, that you were born with, and vakriti, which is your current state. That means if you were chilled at all before we took our toast, you had certain influences of vata that were impressing upon you. But as soon as you took the warm, very aromatic tea, that was pitta that just calmed and warmed your
Right.
system a bit. So we are constantly influenced by dosha. Every bit of sensory input that we receive and mental process affects us doshically.
That's why people love warm soup.
I know.
Yes.
This tea is
Right, totally.
amazing.
It is. It really is.
Tastes
Because it
so
goes
good.
right to your
It's nice and
chest.
warm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it feels all the way down.
You
Yeah,
can feel it all
right,
the way down.
Right. No.
So, in learning a little bit about Ayurveda and working with a practitioner such as yourself, then you can learn to maybe read these signs in yourself as they're changing, and perhaps when you're feeling imbalance, and then you can learn certain techniques to try to bring in more balance. Is
That's
that right?
Yes, and in Ayurvedic consultation, that's exactly what we do. We'll determine your original nature, and we'll see how you're most influenced at this time. And even by the work that you do and the relationships you have, it gives the practitioner information about how you're going to continue to be influenced. Then you leave with a wellness plan, you could say.
Yes.
And it is a plan full of options doshically for you. Dietary considerations, consideration of herbs that could be used, essential oils. Even the way we practice yoga could be considered doshically, and the type of meditation we would do. So you are given a starting place, and every person just chooses where they want to start, what works best for them, what's real for them. I could talk ideal all day, but it has to be something real for you.
Sure.
But as they move along and they see balance, things improving, they might start to be influenced by something different, and then we would bring in something else that would be of doshic balance. But it's the awareness that's most important.
Definitely.
They know what to do.
So I can't wait to come back and talk more about our individual doshas and how they may affect our personality and the way we behave out there in the real world, and maybe what we can do about it. So We're looking forward to more with Denise. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy, a set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders, take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living. We are here with our very special guest, Denise O'Dunn of Balance and Bliss Ayurvedic Lifestyle Center and Academy in Tampa, Florida. And I just want to give a shout out to her hubby, who's here in the studio, her partner actually at the center, practitioner, and who's being a very supportive husband here as we film this show. So thank you so much for being here, Kevin. Namaste. And during the break, we were talking about doshas, and Denise was kind of given Tom a little assessment, and so I'd love to dive in now to the individual doshas more and talk about how they manifest in our personality, because I think that's so interesting, and then what we can do to bring some balance.
Yes, so there's a lot that we can determine by the physical features, but personality is the other side. We want to know the mind of the person and their emotions and their personality. So with that, we say that a Vata person is very creative. They're happy-go-lucky. They're free spirits. They really don't want to be grounded. They want to be up in the ethers and being able to float between one idea to the next. So their thoughts come quickly. They usually speak very quickly as well. In some levels, you could say that they tend to ride the surface. They don't want to go real deep into things. They'll come up with a brilliant idea, but then they'll throw it right off back into the ethers so that they can go on to something else. Artistic too, very much so. The Pitta person, if I use that scenario of that great idea that was just created by Vata, they'll throw it into the ethers, and Pitta, being very perceptive, will see that was a great idea. I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to make a plan out of it. So the Pitta is the planner. They'll actually take that and decide how this is even possible. Now, Pitta by nature, they're very perceptive. They're leaders of industries, presidents of corporations, and if we're doing well, we have a Pitta president of the country at any given time that's leading
so
us well. But if that Pitta person being so productive and so passionate about their purpose, they might get overwhelmed with what they have to do. They'll take that plan and they'll stack it up with some others. Now, the Kapha person will come along and see that plan on the desk and go, that's a great idea. Maybe they didn't come up with that idea or the plan, but the Kapha person is the plotter. They're the one that's going to take that plan and see it to fruition. They're the closer. The Pitta person is the salesman.
Right.
They can get the person and interest them and present the material, but the Kapha person is going to be the one that comes in and says, this is how we close it.
Yeah.
Now, Kapha people by personality, so that doesn't all sound like it's all about sales.
No, but we need the Kapha people to get things done.
That's right. Kapha people are very sweet and easygoing. They just want life to be simple, very easy, and they love a routine. Vatas will resist routine at all costs, but to see the purpose in routine, and Kaphas thrive in routine. They want things to stay the same.
You know what's interesting is that, when we talk about meditation, that whole deal of meditation, right? The thought's supposed to come in, you let it go. Thought comes in, let it go. And that whole peacefulness is really cool, that you actually can get a lot more done. And that's almost the same type of deal that we kind of talk in there, that you can let it go, but then grab it, direct it, focus it, and nail it. Right.
Meditation is very much a Kapha process.
Yeah,
it brings it quietens and stills the mind and body.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Insightful.
Yes.
So when you're talking about bringing balance now, I feel like there's so much to talk about. There's things to eat or not to eat, oils you can use.
We're going to balance you right now.
Please. I can use all the balance I can get. That sounds like a brilliant idea.
Yes. Well, currently, what I'm assessing, although we had a little time in the break, so I can see from this short period of knowing Allie and Brian. Tom, I'm so sorry.
That's
Brian. I know. That was a Vata moment.
That's a beautiful thing.
If you ever want to now cover your tracks, just say, oh, Vata moment.
Yeah.
I love it.
And everyone hopefully understands.
That's a beautiful thing.
To use the information. Yeah.
And also to switch, the O'Brien, that's where it came in.
That's right.
But
O'Brien, O'Dunn, Kevin. Me and her husband are going to take over the world, folks, just so in case you don't know it yet.
But the moment that you were speaking, what I was really picking up, tuning in on, is the Pitta and the Vata. You want to present so much information. That's Pitta. But there's so much, how's it going to get done? That was Vata. So I'm going to try to balance that Pitta and Vata for you. And one of the quickest ways that we can affect balance is through the olfactory, through our sense of smell. It's the quickest response to the brain. So I brought some aromatherapy here, dosha balancing. By nature, I can see Pitta Vata in your nature too. Pitta most likely a dominant dosha for you, Vata perhaps being the second. And I also was assessing that we have Pitta dominantly for you, and maybe Kapha as your second dosha. Something more sound, more solid in that makeup of yours. But let's go ahead and...
How can you not be Pitta with that? I can't even do it. That's Pitta.
So to balance Vata, we want things, and I happen to have brought an aromatherapy spray, but it could be anything. It could be the tea, it could be food that you're eating, or a meditation that you're doing.
Yes.
And it needs to be something, though, that's going to be warming and grounding. Remember, Vata is air and ether, so we need to bring it back to earth. And something warm because of the very cool nature. Something sweet, too. That will help to ground Vata. So this is an aromatherapy, and if you'll close your eyes for just a moment. Whoops. And then you can just take a nice breath in And those are essences of plants, essential oils that are designed and created.
Oh, it smells so good. And it is sweet,
Good.
calming.
And maybe with just a little bit of spice that you can
And
smell.
I can smell that spice. And it's getting bigger now.
Lovely, yeah.
So you do something like this. Let's picture that you're sitting there working. Just something,
Yes.
if we're sitting there working, we say, hey, want to bring it back a little? Just
That's it. It can be
Cool.
used anytime. And if you are getting a little overwhelmed or frazzled by
Yes.
your demands of your day, maybe even time pressure, then it might be calming vata that you want to do, but it could be cooling pitta. And how would you know?
Yeah, how
If you're
would you
feeling
know?
stressed and worried and anxious, that's more like vata. That would be a vata tendency.
Nervousness?
Nervousness, definitely. Anxiety, fear, worry, especially of things unknown, that would be excess of vata.
Okay.
Pitta under stress would go more towards aggravation, irritation, maybe even anger. That would be more the response.
Right.
So if the same person, is responding one way or the other, then that would determine what approach you want to take. So let's say you're feeling a little hot under the collar,
Yep.
you feel heat rising, you're starting to get aggravated, and let's hope that no one walks in the door that moment and disturbs you, or
Totally.
that might come right out at them before you speak.
Well, it's so fun. So listen to this. This is wicked. This is fun. You got to know this. So what happens, I'm on the phone, someone wants to buy a piece of real estate, right? And I had said to them a dozen times, give me a price, right? Well, bottom line, they didn't give me a price. I walk out, and Denise and her husband there, and I'm saying to Kathleen, I can't believe they didn't give me a price again. And I'm looking at her and says, oh no, what a great way to meet me, right? No, seriously.
She's saying,
I mean, because I was trying to... I shouldn't have took that phone call. You know what I mean? Because I had tried to get everyone in between me to say, give me the price, because I'm not going to give you a price.
Yeah.
Right.
But, at
that's-
least you're aware of it,
That's
in
right.
hindsight. I think so
I
many
felt
of us-
terrible, though, let me tell you.
Not at all.
Oh.
Once you know
But I
dosha,
needed some of that in between that phone call.
yes.
Right.
And once you know dosha, you don't judge. You
Yeah.
just recognize dosha.
Yeah.
You say,
Right.
oh, pitta.
That
I
was
see
pitta.
pitta. That's right.
Well,
Oh,
that's
my
helpful.
God.
Yeah.
So before you take that phone call, or after, depending
Yes.
on how
or in
that
between
went,
it.
or in between,
Like, please give me a price right now.
you can always, first of all, just take a deep breath. You don't have
Yes.
to have a product nearby.
Right.
Your breath is always there to calm and soothe the nerves. But let's say you do have a bottle of
Yes.
pitta-reducing oil.
Yeah.
Then, and this is a spray, so obviously this is in a water base.
Okay.
So I'll have you close your eyes just so it doesn't get in your eyes.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh, I really like that one.
It's interesting. I felt both of them, and it could be my breath because I'm inhaling so deeply, but in my chest.
Well, through the olfactory, we go right into the lungs. I mean, through the nasal passage. So,
Okay.
no, you're feeling it literally, the molecules in your lungs,
Yeah.
as well as the essence and the energy and the triggers, synapses that are happening in your brain.
So that's less sweet.
Very perceptive.
It's helping me immediately.
Do you find it cooling?
I'll be taking some of this home.
Do you
I
find
do.
it cooling?
Yeah.
And it makes you pay attention too.
Yes.
It makes you pay attention to everything inside, right? I can see I mean, how could you get upset by feeling your body? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, hold it.
Yeah,
that's
we got a
right.
machine here. You better take care of it. Right. Right.
As a mom, I'm always so curious about this. Is this safe to use with children?
Yes, aromatherapy especially, beautiful way of using doshic properties with your children. We
Okay.
can also consider foods, of course, how they affect everybody but our children, and herbs can be used, but in a milder dose, but aromatherapy, absolutely safe.
Beautiful.
Yes. You would have to, of course, precautions like you would any liquid with essential oils in them, but you could oversee the use.
Yeah, and we'd want to obviously meet with a practitioner such as yourself to determine what's appropriate for them as well.
Yes.
So very helpful. Oh, beautiful.
So both,
After a 2-week vacation, all these mothers, they're going to want a lot of oil.
Seriously?
They needed it for the last 4 or 5 days.
Back to school mayhem.
exactly, I know. Well, but both vata and pitta are calming. It's just one is more sweet, like you perceived. The vata is sweeter, and it is going to be warm in its way of calming. And the pitta is sweet but less sweet, and it's going to be cooling in the way. So literally, if you feel cold and kind of jittery and nervous and anxious, that means we need to be warmed and soothed that way. But if you feel, you're starting to sweat a little bit and you feel your blood starting to pump a little harder, then we want to cool and calm.
Okay.
And so that would be how you tell the difference between using a Vata or Pitta type method.
Excellent. So I have more questions, and I can't wait to talk about diet, the Ayurvedic diet or Sattvic diet. So when we come back, folks, we'll be talking more about what to eat and support yourself daily, things that you can do easily on a daily basis to invite Ayurveda into your life. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to the show, folks. It's Mindful Living, where we want to help you get healthy, feel good, and live life to the fullest every single day. And the way we're doing that today is with Denise O'Dunn, Ayurveda practitioner from Tampa. So we've been talking a lot about the different compositions of individuals and how to know what your dominant composition is, or dosha. And we spoke about Vata and Pitta, so I'd love to hear more about Kapha.
Kappa. See, she's from Boston, too.
Kapha.
So the Kapha dosha, if you are in a, let's say, one of the reasons that you might use aromatherapy, a quick fix for a Kapha impression, it could be that after the holidays, if you've been eating a lot more than usual, or food's different than usual, and your digestion has become a little sluggish, or you have had time off of work and now you've got to get back into the swing of things, you need something that will pick you up, that will actually be stimulating. So the methods we use to reduce, thereby balance Kapha, are methods that are warming, stimulating, invigorating. So the aromatherapy that I brought for Kapha, I think you'll find to be just that way. You close your eyes. Now, if you're not feeling Kapha, it might not have the right response for you, but I'm hoping you can smell that warmth and that energizing, clearing. It has eucalyptus in it too, so it's very opening for the channels and clearing.
I feel that right away.
So it could even be used in the course of a day. Let's say the hours might say you should be done, but you're not quite finished with your work and you need to move on and you are feeling lethargic, then just a spritz of something warm and stimulating, clearing.
Yeah. It feels energizing. And I think maybe that is the eucalyptus, but yeah, I feel that. It's so interesting. You mentioned, I think with all doshas, eating something warm or calming. Isn't that an Ayurveda principle, is to never drink anything cold?
That's true, absolutely.
This is so interesting. Why is that?
Well, the cold drink, especially when we're eating food, this is actually more physiological, but Ayurveda recognizes it, is that the ice-cold beverage will actually slow down, if not stop, enzymatic action in the stomach for that time that the stomach has to warm up again. And so it interferes with digestion in a really big way. And if you are eating, taking a few bites and then taking a sip of that big gulp and then eating even iced water, you're actually slowing or stopping your digestive process in the stomach for that moment. So it has that principle. But in general, we say, from a doshic perspective, that vata is that cold dosha. And we want more pitta introduced when we're eating so that it enkindles what we refer to as agni, our digestive fire, those enzymes. So we do things, warm foods, over cold, raw. If you think of the qualities again, vata is cold, dry, rough. Well, so are salads, cold, dry, rough. Now, we're not against eating salads by any means. However, a vata person may have more difficulty digesting a raw cold salad because it's so much like their nature. They would do better to eat warm foods. The raw cold salad could be better digested by pitta, which has natural heat, good digestion, or maybe even kapha that needs lighter food. So there's not one principle that's across the board in Ayurveda, but you are so right, Ali, that Ayurveda does really promote cooked food. And then there's time. Midday would be the better time of day. It's, again, much more information than we can provide this session, but midday is a pitta time of day. So lunchtime is when we have our highest ability for digestion. So if we're going to have a nice, complicated salad, have it at lunchtime rather than dinner time, where we're in a kapha time of day. So Ayurveda realizes that food is easier to digest when it's cooked. That's the idea. Not cooked to where it loses its nutrients, just heat, transforming heat brought to it, softening, starting to break down the chemical makeup of the plants or the foods that you're eating. And then you had asked, go ahead.
Well, it's just so interesting, and not to say anything bad about smoothies because they're so yummy, and ice cream, but it does make me think about taking anything really cold into my belly that needs heat to digest the food, you know? So,
well, one thing to think about, and this is, I think, one of the reasons that Ayurveda is something that people can follow is because it doesn't give out a rule that you must follow. It actually says, it really, a lot of things depends. In fact, everything you asked me, I could have started by saying, it depends. If a person is pitta by nature, and if they're in the pitta time of year, summer, and if there's pitta time of day, around noon or 1, 2 o'clock, they would probably do okay with an ice-cold beverage. Not while they're eating, but just because they love that sense of cold. It's everything they really kind of need. Now, however, if that same person, same scenario, finds after this delicious smoothie that they actually have kind of gripping or cramping going on, well, then that was a sign it didn't digest so well.
So listen to the body.
Yes, you have to listen to your body. It will always give you the right answer.
And are there certain types of food? Is it a vegetarian deal? Is it
No.
So
Ayurveda, and that's sometimes confused, but Ayurveda does not require vegetarianism, although it says that a person can live very healthy on a plant-based diet. But there are times, and again, it's dosha. If a person has good, strong agni, good digestion, then they would do better to break down the animal products. But if they have weaker digestion, that would be most difficult for them. So it really depends. A sattvic diet, though, is one that yogis recognize, and it means that the food is fresh, freshly prepared, it's sweet, it's pure, it has principles in it that it's rich with prana, life force giving energy. And Ayurveda embraces sattvic living and sattvic diet as well, living in this very conscious way. But it also recognizes that there are other energies we won't get into today, but they're called rajas and tamas, and there's a time for everything, a time for everything.
You know what's amazing is that when you do eat, I was at a restaurant, I don't know, a couple weeks ago in San Fran, and what ended up happening is that everything was so fresh. I'm looking at this guy, I'm saying to myself, I can't believe how good this is. And he's explaining, well, they had their own farm. And it was that cut and dried too. It's like everything was alive. You could just taste it.
Yes.
And I was eating a pizza, so I don't even eat pizza anymore. Sorry, Nico.
Fresh and alive.
But it was that alive.
That's the prana.
It really was, and it was great. I mean, it's like
wonderful.
It's a big heads up. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of that. What we eat, we ingest the energy of. And I mean, is that some of the idea behind the vegetarianism, or?
Certainly, and I personally have been vegetarian most of my life, so I do promote that way of living and say that it's a healthy and balanced choice. But Ayurveda, we are looking at, through all the Vedic literature, we're looking at not disturbing the mind. And so certainly eating a way where there wasn't anything harmed in its way. The plants give their life for us, so we say that it's a very sweet and very pure and very conscious way of eating.
Right.
But it isn't something, I do like to make clear that following an Ayurvedic lifestyle does not mean that you have to be vegetarian.
Yeah, no.
Rather that your choices are conscious.
Sure, right.
Starting with the mind, that's interesting. Yeah, which makes sense. Because totally makes sense.
More about the attitude with which you take the food, not taking more than you need and trying to give back.
Sattvic, yes.
So within the sattvic diet, because I know I get a lot of questions about this from yoga practitioners, can you give some general guidelines, with regards to what should be taken out completely, or is that also doshic specific?
Well, it's doshic specific, but as you mentioned, sattva, that's a guna, one of the qualities, major qualities, maha, great qualities that we follow. But there are two other gunas, and they're rajas and tamas. And the conscious decisions that we're making from a doshic perspective are the first layer of consciousness. The second is the energy that they're going to give us. So a pitta person, being very dynamic in their nature, carries a natural amount of rajas with them, this dynamic force. They would do best then to eat more sattvically, to eat foods that are very calming and pure. Organic.
Such as calming for pitta?
Well, we could say that it would be, for a pitta type, we could eat a rice and, grain dishes. Rice would be, basmati rice is perfect for pitta, it's very sweet and cooling. You could have mung dal with that rice, which is very easily digestible, but also sweet and filling.
Delicious.
You could have then, with that greens cooked into it, you could have some spinach that would be cool and bring its energy into that. You can also then, mixing foods and spices, that's a big part of Ayurveda. We have a whole episode on just Ayurvedic principles of cooking and eating, but we bring in spices that are cooling as well, that will help the digestive system not to be overheated for the pitta person.
Right. Because, as a pitta, I'm always concerned with, I love spicy food. I'm from Texas. Yes. I can take the heat, but I'm not supposed to have too much heat.
As a pitta person, you're right. That's a principle. But remember how I said it depends? So if you love your spicy food, you probably do this naturally anyway. You might do more of that in our cooler days or our cooler months. Our Academy of Ayurveda, we have lunch that I provide them, and I prepare it Ayurvedically. And finally, I was able to make my chili for them because we had one good cold weekend.
You got to come back with some chili. I love chili.
But there's a time to eat spicy food, and even pitta types can, unless your body tells you, in fact, that wasn't a good idea.
Sure.
You have fire in your system, and you've got to expel that fire somewhere, and you're going to feel that, and you'll know that wasn't such a good idea. I always tell my pitta types, too, if you can eat the spicy food and be sweet and calm, it's all yours.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself after eating that food getting a little aggravated, agitated, that was just evidence of that pitta being too much.
Yeah. It's such a science. It is such an extensive science. So you mentioned the center. I'd love to talk or get into some of the treatments that you offer. Because I've read your website, and I have been to an Ayurveda spa in India. So maybe you could talk about how you can use different body work treatments to balance doshas, and how you might bring in oil.
Yes.
Love to know.
We do. There are traditional Ayurvedic treatments, and we offer those at our center, Balance and Bliss. And they are Dosha specific to a degree. In other words, everyone can benefit from what we refer to as an abhyanga, or a traditional Ayurvedic massage. But the way we do the massage would vary person to person. A Pitta type, we want to do things that are very soothing, very calming, because remember, their nerves and their mind's on. We want to quieten their mind, and we do that with very, very rhythmic strokes. Pittas are very balanced, and they feel and perceive everything. So if we do something one side of the body, we need to do it the same way on the other, and they'll be watching for that. But we'll use oils that are very cooling, like the essential oil in the blend that we were spraying. It'll be very cooling, calming oils. And we would use a base oil, like sunflower or coconut oil, very cool energetically. Where a Vata person, based on their very quick and fast movements and irregular nature, mind also very active though, we would do strokes that are very long and slow, slow everything down. That's the idea for Vata person. And we would use oils though, a base oil of sesame, which is the warmest, not the warmest oil, we won't want it to be overstimulating, that's mustard oil, but it's a very warm energy oil. And then we use essential oils or herbs that are also grounding and calming. A Kapha person that is very slow and stagnant by their nature, we would want oil that's warmer, and we could use a mustard oil on that person, but we would use herbs and spices or essential oils that are also warming, stimulating, invigorating, and light. And the strokes would be actually very quick, upward sweeping, trying to increase lymph. There are other specific types of treatments. We have one called Garshana, which is a dry brush or a dry gloved hand that's very brisk strokes to increase circulation, and that might be for a Kapha person, or Vata, which typically doesn't have the best circulation.
It wouldn't be for me.
Yes. Like slow rhythm.
No, I think slow methods will work wonderful for you. But and then we have a treatment called Pitsajili, which is two therapists that pour warm oil over the person for a long period of time with hand following, and that is the most grounding treatment, saturating that person with oil.
It sounds good. I'm melting in my chair listening to it.
Yes.
And one of my favorites, I'd love for you to explain.
I know.
Shirodhara.
I knew.
It's heaven.
It's everyone's favorite.
So what's the principle behind Shirodhara?
Yes. Well, Shirodhara, if you aren't familiar, is warm oil that pours over the brow, right at the eye, what we call the third eye, or the middle of the forehead. And the principle behind it is that it is the continuous flow of oil over a period of time that will calm and quieten the nervous system. It is mostly used for reducing Vata and Pitta, and the way that it's so calming and so relaxing. It actually helps to balance and equalize left and right brain hemisphere in this process. And then we have energetic basis behind it as well, that it's calming the top two energy centers, the chakras that we refer to, and balancing the person that way. A one-time Shirodhara, the way I like to describe it is it's this most profound state of relaxation that you've ever had in Shavasana or Yoga Nidra. If a person is going to do it therapeutically, they would have consecutive sessions, so many days each day. And then we can get into actually very nice, profound disorders, in other words, cyst disorders that might be more neurologically based. So at the least, it's very, very calming, profoundly so, relaxing.
I've got it. I'm coming back.
Good.
It was lovely. So I want to know more about a practice that I'm not sure everyone should take. I don't know, but it's Panchakarma.
Oh, okay. Yes, Panchakarma.
Panchakarma.
Okay.
This is something that I hear a lot of people talking about. I'm going in for Panchakarma.
Yes.
What is that?
Okay, we do Panchakarma at our center, and it is the definitive program in Ayurveda for cleansing and rejuvenation. It's a commitment of time. We have a 21-day program that we provide, which is classical in Ayurveda, and it's broken down, though, into sections. 7 days of preparation for treatments that will be coming in Panchakarma, minimum of 7 days, so you could have more of actual treatments, and then 7 days post. And we are building the body up. We start to stimulate what we call ama, one word, but it's not a big enough word. Ama is much more broad-based, is toxins. But we're taking toxins, or ama, that's more in the periphery of the tissues of the body, re-entering it back into the bloodstream so it can be filtered and eliminated through organs of elimination. So it's a combination of dietary changes, elimination diet that leads you up to a mono diet. You're eating khichdi, which is like I was talking about, this very sattvic meal, very easy to digest, very nourishing though. You never get hungry during panchakarma.
Okay.
It's not like fasting.
Oh, so that's what I'd heard, that it was really intense cleansing and fasting. So
It's intense in its nature and that it's so effective, but the way that we do panchakarma, traditional panchakarma, is that we don't bring the person into any state of extreme.
okay.
Because then we're increasing more vata. We
Right.
don't want that for the person.
Right.
So it's a very deliberate, slow process, gradual process of getting in, moving, and mobilizing the toxins in the body and helping to eliminate. Now, we do have several days that are the most intense of the program, and those are involving internal cleansing.
Okay.
But again, that's done in a way that's balancing. It's building tissue up at the same time it's reducing. But it typically does not involve fasting, rather minimum diet, but not fasting.
Okay. And is it an in-residence program?
We
those
offer
intense
both.
days? Okay.
It's quite ideal to be able to leave your norm, your place, your home, and come somewhere where you're not having any responsibilities at all, even
Yes.
driving back and forth.
Right.
That's the ideal.
Right.
Right.
But we do have a lot of local clients that come in to receive their treatments each day, and they go home. But they have to pretty much sign a waiver, and I'm smiling when I say that, if you're just listening to this, that they will not answer the phone at home. that
Right.
They will not take
Yes,
on
which is really
responsibilities.
tough. Right.
Yeah.
It would just
right.
make the process more difficult.
Sure,
Yeah.
Right.
So.
It's quite an education process.
It really is.
This is pretty cool.
And speaking
Yeah,
of education, we have a couple minutes, and I'd love if you have some general tips for our listeners, ways that you could become more familiar, obviously through seeing you or an Ayurveda practitioner, but to bring it into our lives.
What I can do in just a few moments is to say that Ayurveda looks at ideal principles, and we understand ideal. We look at the person. We know by basic balancing acts what that person needs. We provide that information, and we help guide them with good explanation of how to incorporate these things into your life. But the important thing is knowing that you don't have to do anything that is more than you can do realistically. In fact, it's preferred that you just make one or two small changes that you can incorporate even today.
Yes.
If there's something you heard, it's like, well, I
Sure.
could start that. Maybe
Right.
I won't go for that cold drink with my meal.
Right.
Then that will start to bring you on a path of balance. And then once you feel good about what you've incorporated, you just go to the next thing. So these are very practical and very applicable things that we can all do, and that's the most important thing for them to work.
Yeah. But yeah, small changes is key.
Yes,
so then
it
you
is.
set yourself up to maintain those changes and
for
for
success.
success.
You're setting yourself up for
Right.
success. You know what's interesting is that the drinking, I don't drink anything with my meals, and if I drink anything, it's only tea. That's it.
That's
and that's been
perfect.
for a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, man, I got to get something in my system.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't fly. So it's interesting.
When I started switching to just room temperature water even, it was odd at first, but you can feel, it feels better.
Yes.
So it's a system that just makes sense. And I mean, again, as one of the oldest, healing systems in all of existence, it's based on, as you say, balance, and it does make sense, you know?
Yes, it does.
So
Yes, it
I'm
does.
excited to give some things some try that you've try that you've talked about today, and I'm also excited to come into the center. So I should just go to your website and book my appointments, or
Yes, you
consultation?
can. Email is a good source of communication, and all that information is there.
Beautiful. Denise, thank you so
You're so
much. It's been a pleasure and so insightful. And if you guys would like more information on Ayurveda, please visit balanceandbliss.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tune in next week for more mindful living. Have an
Thanks,
awesome
Denise.
day.
Thanks,
Thank you.
folks.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
No doubt.
Get a good feeling.